Okay, so you obviously might have noticed that this is a different setup than usual build videos. I realized pretty quickly into this build that this one is going to take a long time because I've decided to basically exponentiate the amount I can build. I think the longest series before this one was the Minutemen Children's Stronghold, and this will be far and away bigger. However, back to the point, the reason I'm talking right now is because I think it would be interesting to see how narrating these videos goes because of the sheer volume of the build. Eventually, I want to focus on what's happening in the video itself, but first I wanted to explain the story behind this to you because I never wrote a summary in any of the descriptions. So basically, my thought process here was that much like my original Sanctuary, I wanted this to be the military base of command for the Minutemen. I feel like Sanctuary makes more sense for this than the castle. We get here first, we have a decently long time here depending on how fast you level up before we even learn about the castle, and Sanctuary has a much easier time being multifunctional because of the build space that we have. So with the idea that Sanctuary is the sort of Swiss Army knife of the Minutemen, I decided on what I call a civilian base. What I mean by that is that Sanctuary is going to effectively be a place for civilians to live and grow safely and soundly, but it's also where the Minutemen are training their new recruits. The settlement is more geared towards settler civilian life, but there is an important military component that provides a keystone in terms of providing the safety mentioned above. At this point in the series, I haven't gotten to building the training part of the settlement because that's far and away a much more streamlined process than the rest of the build, so I wanted to save it for last. And we will definitely get there in the coming parts. This video and part of the next video is dedicated to making the hospital medical area of Sanctuary. It isn't too fancy and I didn't want it to be. This is the place where citizens would go to get help, and while there is a surgery room that you'll see later, I also plan on adding a medic station in the training area that is more military focused. Everything after this will be unscripted narration of what's happening in the build, so without further ado, I hope you enjoy episode 7 of the civilian-based Sanctuary settlement build. So at this point, we're just trying to figure out how to make the roof look like a roof, because I wasn't putting a second floor on this building because I realized pretty quickly if we put a second floor, we're going to be here for literal years because of how long it takes to do 2 floors in every building and furnish it well enough to where I don't dislike it, but then I also had to overlap the roof way off because we don't have small tile roofs for some reason, which feels odd to me. But yeah, so we had to go do that. My editing program on this laptop is just a little bit laggy because this isn't a great laptop. So just bear with me because I'm seeing everything a little bit off of what I probably should be, or it'll just freeze sometimes. But then I also wanted to put up the wall around here instead of doing a dedicated wall episode because that would be boring. So I'm trying to put up the wall as I go, and I really like this retexture of the junk wall. I think they look really nice and clean, and they're not nearly as long. But after that, I wanted to start furnishing the inside, and it occurred to me that this was a kind of shitty house to pick as far as furnishing the interior goes, because it has so much open wall. So I think the first thing I decided to do here is look for the modded door window covers and try to make the walls less open. And I think I do a relatively okay job. I think I also end up using half walls because of the nature of the stuff that I'm using. I don't want everything to look too similar necessarily, and sometimes the half walls work a little better. And you'll also see later, but I'm going to bring it up now because it's irritating. The doorways in these houses are made for the pre-war pocket doors, but the pre-war pocket doors sink into the ground really far when you're trying to use them, and at least on the PlayStation version for some reason. And so I was being real frustrated later, you'll see, with trying to put doors in here because no matter what I do, there's always going to be a glitch. And I mean, that's technically fine, but it's also slightly irritating. But yeah, right now we're just putting some lights up. I picked those lights because I like the way that they look and they're very bright. But they have the light profile of the regular bulb, which is far and away the better bulb in the game. but they don't look like just one hanging bulb, and they're higher up on the ceiling, which is super useful, I might add. Um, but then I hooked up the power, and I don't know if it's in this episode, or in this part of the episode, or in a later part of the episode, I end up running the power around the back a little bit too because I needed it. Oh, and then a other specific thing that I need to mention. Some of the stuff that was on the ceilings in the sanctuary homes are undeletable, and I've tried my hardest to figure out why the mod I chose to use didn't get rid of them, but I don't know what it is, and I'm too far into it to switch mods because of something that might get deleted. Um, but so some things might just be stuck hanging from the ceiling, and there's not a lot I can do about that. But it's not that big of a deal, I guess. I think this is where I run the power around the outside. Um, yeah, so I think I need to use the car garage thing. But I'm not completely sure what I would use the car port for because, like, I mean, we don't have cars. There wouldn't be a car. So it's kind of interesting to think about how that's gonna work out. But then I think this is just more patching up the walls, and that Brahmin was stuck in there because I guess the way I placed its trough originally was wrong, and it glitched out pretty rough. I don't even remember where I put the trough, and I think you'll see that I am lost trying to find it. But the Brahmin was making life very difficult to put stuff down for. We were not a happy camper trying to do this around the Brahmin, and there's another part in the video where Cogsworth just refuses to get out of my way, and that's a big issue. We weren't having fun with that either. But a lot of this episode is just fixing up the rooms and making them look more like rooms that aren't like completely dilapidated more than it is anything else particularly. There's a lot of indoor furnishing. I think we make the surgery room in this part, and that's pretty chill. Surgery room is cool. Um, but I think I decided to go to sleep because I have a mod that gives sleep hunger and stuff for when I'm playing not building. And I figured that if I went to sleep, the Brahmin would also move. So that's what you see happening here. I thought about cutting it out, but it gets really choppy sometimes because of how long it takes the mod or the construction menu thing to pop up. And it's too much effort to cut that like freeze out every time because it makes the overall video choppier, and especially when I'm talking it's not nearly as big of a deal. You see I had to turn the trough around because I placed it incorrectly the second time, and then I think at this point I was just trying to figure out how I wanted this to look, and I don't really particularly like that clinic. I think it's kind of ugly. So I did the same thing that I did up in the food area, the bar, Blarney's Pub, that's what we named it. And I found a cabinet that I liked, or like a countertop from one of the mod menus, and I put the rug placeholder thing in place for it because I think it looks a lot better this way, and it doesn't necessarily have to be redundantly screaming clinic in your face like the actual thing does, because I make it pretty clear that this is where you go to get your medical supplies and stuff. So I don't think that's really a problem, but you can see I'm placing that mat down there. And then I think I decided to go out of the build mode for something, and I don't remember what it was. It might have been an accident. But one thing I noticed when I was putting my beds down in like this immediate care area is what I've kind of called it. Um, those windows make it interesting because they're so big and there's so many of them that I feel like that bed is just like completely open to the breeze. And if you were to need like, I don't know, warmth, like you have hypothermia or something, and you're coming in here to get help, well, the windows being all breezy was going to be an issue, so we patched those up later. But I also put some rugs down, and I generally try to make it look like it's one little medical stall or something, if that makes sense. But have it like a little homey. I end up putting a half wall in between because the curtains were not clipping to the ceiling tiles right, and I couldn't place them, and I didn't like the way they looked when I managed to let me place it. So half walls look decent. They serve a good enough purpose. And then I think I was just looking out here for the window things, because I realized that the window those things are meant to be used on the outside of the building and not the inside of the building, but it didn't click for a while. So this is just me filling in the windows so that those people in there have, a decent amount of sleep area that's not freezing cold, especially because in my head I'm working off of the building as I have it, and I hadn't put the door in. I don't even know if the door is in yet because it's not done. We don't finish it in this episode. But I wanted to make sure that I got this out, and I tried this new format out. Hopefully on Friday. Hopefully you're seeing this on Friday. I don't know. It's Wednesday recording the narration. I have some assignments I have to get done that require me to use my computer, which means it's going to be a little hard to render stuff. And then the narration, recording it at least, takes at least as long as the video is, essentially. And then I have to a little interesting, or look into how I'm doing this while this part plays out, because I'm really just furnishing a table and making it look like they actually take care of people in here as best I can. But I have to record the narration, which is what I'm doing now, and I'm recording it in Audacity because Audacity has better audio editing features than Lightworks, and I can get a much crisper, nicer sound while I'm here where I am currently without my big microphone, which will hopefully not be the case soon, but I still would rather do it this way, even if I did, because I have better control over how my audio sounds. And then I gotta pop that into Lightworks. I gotta make sure everything lines up. I gotta put nice transitions if I can between the audio to make it a little less jarring when it switches. And then transitions between the videos I've been doing. I don't think just hearing me talk is very entertaining. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it can be a tiny bit annoying. So what I think I'm also gonna do is I'm gonna go through my repertoire of music or whatever that I have, and I'm gonna find some music to play really low underneath this just to give it that extra depth. And then I have to export it, which on this laptop that I currently have with me, it's probably gonna be a 2-hour process because there's a lot of moving parts in this video, even if it's only 30 minutes long. But that's a big part of the reason why I think it's gonna take extra time, a lot more time than I was originally thinking to do the videos in this style, but also because what you're seeing as 30 minutes is a lot closer to 2 or 3 hours for me, depending on how many clips I end up mashing together. So that becomes an interesting thing because I have to balance getting a lot recorded and getting a lot done in the recordings, because I like to furnish a lot. And the furnishing takes a lot of time, but doesn't necessarily add a lot of meat. But I want to go building to building minus the bottom floor that I ignored in that other building because I don't know what to do with it yet. It'll probably be more residential, but we had just done 2 residential buildings and I was like, we need to change of pace. Because that was probably going to be at least another part of just residential, and that would have sucked a little bit. But it takes a hot while to get these buildings looking vaguely not empty Fallout 4 building-esque. And I do not do nearly as good of a job as inspo channels the Evil Viking, Dave the Evil Viking. I don't remember what his channel name is. I think that is his channel name. But he does Fallout 4 realistic settlements, PC console commands to glitch everything together real nice. Also, the other thing he does, all collecting the resources, he does it legit, which I do not. I have infinite resources. But like, I'll never get it on his level, just due to the restrictions of like the platform I'm on and stuff. But I would recommend checking that out if you want to see more stuff like this. And he does walkthroughs with his friend, which I think would be cool. He does Let's Builds, but not in this like setting. Or like other inspo channels, like I can't remember his name. He does Fallout 76 base building. Like making stuff like that is pretty cool. And that's kind of what the vibe here is. The 76 is a little different, but like I want it to be detailed and I want it to look cool and I want it to be something that I like to come back to. And not just big, empty, this is for my settlers so I can get resources or an achievement or whatever. Oh, and then I had the idea here, to just segue back to the video for a second. I was putting the Doctor Here sign up and I realized that one of the buildings I've wanted to do at the very front is like a Minutemen recruiting and maybe like a check-in station to show your papers, because I'd assume you have to have some amount of loyalty to the Minutemen to be here because of the nature of the build that we got going on, right? So I wanted to make a recruitment center, and then I thought, well, this is one of the buildings that would really benefit from the dual floor format, and like have recruitment in the attic in the second floor, and then like check in, check out on the bottom floor. And I remembered we have these marquee boards, and I wanted to make a marquee board saying like join the Minutemen now for a chance at a better life, I think is what I wrote. And the marquee board was actually like, it's a lot of fun to work with. It's nice to have something at the front of the settlement, because when I build in Sanctuary, what I tend to do is start at the back, because depending on what you do, like in the original build that's on my channel, that tree is a really good focal point when like designing your builds. And I chose to leave it as just the tree this time, but in the last build, which you can see in the playlist that'll be linked at the end, I believe there'll be a playlist linked, I made a huge like pub hotel inn thing built around that tree, which was a really cool idea and I loved it a lot. But I wanted to run and go do that because I thought it was a good idea. We head back over in here, and I think, oh, so I wanted to try to make like a waiting room area, because it felt a little like devoid of seating, which you don't need a lot of in a doctor, but like in a Fallout doctor anyway, because you're not really waiting for an appointment as much as you're like showing up because you broke something or you're in like a lot of tremendous pain or whatever. And that didn't really work. So I put a chair for the clinic for the doctor, and then I came back here. This is going to be the surgery room. I think I do put surgery room in letters, or surgery in letters, but it ends up having to be covered up just because of the nature of how this house is, and the doors, like I mentioned before. But I needed to cover this whole wall up relatively well because it's a little bit of an eyesore. But something that I noticed that's a little difficult is the roof is a little too low or something. It glitches out the regular walls when you try to place them outside, but it wasn't going to let me place that there like that from the inside. So I had to like run outside and glitch it through the wall from the outside, which was a fun little challenge. And then I decided I was going to furnish it. The gurneys are not usable beds. I might go back and change that because it makes more sense for the gurneys to be usable beds, even if it's just so people lay in them occasionally and you get the vibe. But this is going to be like the storage table. I was going to put a lot of like paraphernalia with OC Decorator on there to make it look more like a surgery room. I like the Minuteman flag. I like trying to put a Minuteman flag in every building I do in a Minuteman settlement, or a Minuteman settlement, just because I feel like it's something that the Minutemen would do. It makes a lot of sense to me. Oh, and then this x-ray box is a weird object. Like, it glitches real hard, and I'm not sure what to do with it, but it ends up, I think, right around where it is, floating for the rest of the video, but you can't tell it's floating unless you get real close. But then I thought that the gurneys should have like tables or something at the end because it makes more sense for them to be there. And so I could put a surgical tray on, which is a cool feature, and then pile stuff on the surgical tray with OC Decorator. And then this is me going through OC Decorator, seeing what I have copies of, and placing stuff on things. One of the like main limitations and shittiest things about OC Decorator, as cool of a mod as it is that the placement is weird. Like you have to be so far away from the thing you're trying to place the thing on, and then you have to go up like closer and adjust it. And it's not that big of a deal. I just really wish sometimes we could like go up to it and just place it. But I think OC Decorator is not to blame there. I think it's just the way that Fallout does things. And I think because they're small items and they're not like base game or DLC added items necessarily, like this isn't a feature that Bethesda has necessarily endorsed. And it makes sense that they haven't endorsed it, obviously, because if you were playing with a build limit, this would be absolutely horrible to try to do because the build limit's so small, especially on console. But I appreciate it for stuff like this because like I'm not, especially places like Sanctuary where I'm only here for a few minutes no matter what, unless I'm just chilling and walking around, in which case frame rate loss isn't that big of a deal. Oh yeah, this sucks. So I have a weather mod because I like the new weather. I love the weather that the mod added. Oh, and I wanted to get drugs to put on the table. For some reason it goes through buildings that don't have a cell, that aren't like their own cell, which is dumb. So even though everything's boarded up pretty good, I mean you see that the dirt's like zooming through, which bugs me. Oh, and here's the part where Cogsworth decides he's an ass and he's just gonna stay here. Yeah. Excuse me. I wanted to put a bunch of supplies on here because I felt like, I mean, it may be a Minutemen doctor, but it's still a Commonwealth doctor, and they're not like the best at their job, I would say, or at least they're not the most trustworthy. So I wanted to put, I wanted them to have Kims. I wanted them to look semi-competent, but I also kind of wanted to give the room an air of messiness and be like, maybe they might be able to do what they do, and they might do it well, but like, you're gonna be a little nervous if you go to a Commonwealth doctor. I think that that's a normal feeling, and I think I captured that okay. Excuse me. In the surgery room, I think I hit that nail as well as I could. But here's the door epiphany. I think the rest of this video might just be the door epiphany because I couldn't get anything to place the way I wanted it to. And that became really irritating because like the pre-war doors are the exact size that they need to be, but they sink into the ground for some reason. And like I have plans to make the Sole Survivor, the player's house, sorry, a pre-war museum kind of thing because I think that would be really cool, and it sounds like something the Minutemen, or that would exist in the Commonwealth at least, would do. And I thought that it would be cool to have the pre-war doors and stuff, but I have to really think about how I'm gonna do that and stuff because it does not work the way that I think it should. Which I mean, it happens. But I ended up, this door doesn't give me nearly as much trouble, I think you can see. There's a lot of freezing because I'm trying to make sure that the door opens, but I get it set up relatively okay. It's the bathroom door that seizes the shit out of the game, and I have a really rough time with, which you will see in this episode. But yeah, I was toying with the idea of just cutting off the end of that hallway, which pretty much truncated my problem, but I didn't like the way that it looked very much, and then It would have been a whole thing with piling half walls on top of half walls or whatever, because the half wall isn't wide enough. So I decided not to. I made this just like a little storage room. There's not really much I can do with it because I'm not putting bedrooms in this house. So make a perfect like little two tiny bedroom. But nah, I just made it storage. I plopped a door on it and I called it good. Every facility that serves the public, even a residential house, but it's a little easier to do storage with residential, needs storage, so I was like, it'll work. But yeah, I think I also furnished the bathroom, and I don't remember what my thought process was furnishing the bathroom, but it was basically just, fuck yeah, somebody left the sink there mostly unattached. Not the sink, the bathtub, which made my life easier because that's the most expensive part, and it's just oof, man. But I got a nice toilet in there, and then the sink caused me a lot of issues. That sink always causes me a lot of issues. It just is the way that sink is. However, the person who made the mod made it place is like really wonky, and I didn't want to use the glitch movement map because I didn't think I'd need it, but then I had trouble getting the door in. It's like so much trouble here. So maybe I should have just used the rug, but it doesn't matter, I don't think. Because everything, I mean, it gets done. It looks nice in my opinion. Just like, yeah, just gonna struggle with this door for a little bit. I don't actually know how long this video is, but it's really just, at this point, me trying to get that video down, and then I had to end pretty abruptly because I had a class to go to, but that's essentially it. I'm gonna let this roll out just so I don't accidentally run over time, but I got a new intro, I got a new outro. I hope you like them. I designed them on Canva today. Canva is a super neat tool. I don't really have the prowess right now to actually know how to do video editing on that caliber yet, so it's pretty nice to be able to just hop on Canva and change everything to what I want it to look like. All art I either made or I found with a no licensing needed thing, so don't worry about that. All that's good. I hope this is a nice format. It's taking me twice as long to edit at this point than, or it will have taken me, than the other videos, so if I switch to this, we might be going to Tuesday, Thursdays, because those are the days I don't have any classes. I have to work, but it's still not nearly as bad. And that makes it a lot easier for me to do this. I think this video is far and away going to be of higher quality than my other videos, on this subject at least. I think the GTA videos I did very well. Those were really fun. I'm hoping to get a heist video. I know this is the problem I was having with this door. I'm hoping to get heist videos done again soon because, like I said, those are fun, but those take even longer to do than these because I have to rely on other people, and this is just kind of like it's weird to narrate in my room because I'm currently living with a roommate type deal, and I've found time most of the time to do this, so it's not a big deal, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. I hope to do more live streams soon. I hope this format is enjoyable. I know I've had fun doing this. I think this is a lot more fun than what I was doing before with these. It's just that it's a lot. Maybe sometime when I have my mic back, because this headset echoes a lot in recordings. I think it probably does it in live streams too, and I feel bad about that. I'd like to get more into live streaming and maybe do some clips of these videos where the audio is still there to just see what we're talking about while we build, because I'm usually building with my friends in a party, and I think that'd be entertaining. But thank you for watching. I know this is a long one. It's a lot more dedication than some previous builds. I'm going all out. I don't know when it's going to be done. This might be till the end of the year project, quite honestly.